Hello, welcome to another episode of That Green Thing. It's almost March and it's a warm day, and I thought I'd take a little walk around the yard and show you signs of declining winter, melting snow, and plants with winter interest. So here we go. An old snowman and the nice shape of my Miss Kim lilac. A found object from the local dump. A nice metal sun placed amongst the common lilac stems. I have here 3 slender-leaved yuccas with their spent flower canes from last year. Right behind me is a properly pruned late lilac, Syringa villosa. They get huge, but I kind of enjoy keeping it within bounds. I've planted that one about 15 years ago. It's about 7 feet tall, but if I had not touched it, it would be a lot thicker and would probably be 18 feet tall. One of my favorite young trees in the yard is this beautiful young white oak. It started somehow from an acorn in the yard, which gave me the opportunity to identify it as a youth and prune it so as to encourage a proper shape. I love that tree, and it's just a volunteer here in my landscape. February 24, and my vernal witch hazel is in bloom. Very small flowers. There's a little cluster. They're actually fragrant if you get enough of them together. Here's a little cluster. Right there. The plant's fairly nondescript, but something fun to have in the border. Because what else blooms in Maine in February? And how about the exfoliating bark on this red maple? This tree has always had it. This particular tree definitely fun to look at. I'll just keep the camera on. Here's a shrub I got some years ago in a nursery. It was not labeled. It's either a leather leaf or a mohawk viburnum. It's semi-evergreen. It keeps some of these leaves through the winter. And if I'm lucky, these large flower buds will not dry out, and I'll get a beautiful show in the early spring. Sometimes the deer eat them, sometimes they dry up, but it's looking good. Got a nice full set of buds. Right behind it, I've got the spent flower stalks of goat's beard or aruncus. I like to keep those until early spring when I cut them off. I even like the shape of my snow mound spirea. It's got spent flower heads, an ovoid shape, I believe it's called. And really anything's beautiful if it comes down to it, right? Can you see the seed heads on my Siberian lilac, which is closely related, same family, to privet? You could actually graft them onto each other. I planted this privet hedge here. I think I bought about 50 plants online years ago. I could fit them all in my hand, and they've grown, and I've pruned them into their proper privet form. Of course, I have to shear it twice a year, and the only time it's perfect is the day after you shear it. It requires a lot of maintenance. There's the nice clipped form of Annabelle hydrangea, viewable out from the kitchen window at the shrub border. Those are actually cuttings, rooted, layered cuttings from the parent plant in the yard. There's another clump right there. Very nice bloom, dependable bloomers. There's the nice symmetrical shape of my dwarf Siberian pea shrub. How about Rhamnus frangula asplenifolia, threadleaf false. Oh, let me think now. Threadleaf buckthorn. I've had that a while, transplanted it once. And how about the graceful, spreading, slender stems of the dwarf Physocarpus, or dwarf ninebark. And there's some really neat shadows of the red maple behind me, and my French pink pussy willow, which I might imagine that the buds are starting to show. Possibly. I see the little tips at the very top starting to turn white, heading into March. This is a nice specimen. Again, it's one I ordered online years ago, and it's in its prime now. Very pretty dried pussy willows from this. We always have a bunch in the house year round. How about my ugly old red maple, although well-loved red maple? It's got extensive decay. I've pruned it, I've reduced it, I've cleaned the cavity. But since it's not in a hazardous area as far as people getting hit if it fails, I'll keep it around. And there is my gosh awful ugly burn pile, quote unquote. It's been growing for several years. My advice is, if you're going to have a burn pile, try not to put it in your view. I have to look at between the house and the farm ponds and the mountain, etc. What's in between? My lovely burn pile. When I do burn this on the next, the next wet day, I hope to never put a pile here again. I'll have to drag it further out behind the garage. Macy, are you finding things of winter interest? Yeah? What do you like in the yard? What do you see? All right. And how about we wrap things up with a stroll down the center of the shade garden